Morning, YouTube. Sean, Top 5 Fit. Wanted to share a little bit of, a couple of experiences that I've been going through over the past couple of weeks. This video is going to have a lot to do with motivation and what it basically means to the user, the end user, how you can utilize tools to ultimately keep you on your fitness journey. But I think we spend a lot of time focusing on what positive motivational cues we can use to, like I said, keep us going, but we tend to ignore the negative ones and sometimes even mask them. And today I'd like to talk about some experiences that I've kind of gone through as far as social media is concerned and trying to, in essence, put yourself out there. Now, to give you a little bit of backstory, I've been in business by myself for probably the past 16 years. And I have been extremely fortunate and lucky, pretty much that I have never had to advertise. I've never really once ran any real consecutive ads or, programs, to speak that draw people in, get them to where they want to be and then shoot them right back out the door. What I ultimately have are clients that have stuck with me for 14, 15, 16, and some longer than that years. And what you end up with is a different quality of individual when that kind of scenario is going on in your practice. Now, there's obvious limitations to that. If I'm not advertising, I'm not bringing in fresh blood. I'm spending a lot of time working on the same individuals and, kind of moving them along through their goals and that kind of thing, which isn't a bad thing. But the model of motivation that goes along with those types of individuals is much different than the general public. And the reason I'm bringing this up is through the instruction of people whose opinions actually matter to me, i.e. I give a shit about what they say. I have been spending a little bit more time on some social media groups, fitness groups, wellness groups, supplemental groups, anything that has to do with the wellness journey, so to speak. And within a very short period of time, I'm starting to notice some pretty big commonalities between the people who are actually achieving what they want and the people who are not. Now, first of all, the groups that exist, the social media groups, there's nothing wrong with them. They're not bad. I'm not here to poo-poo on what they are and what they're actually producing and what people are getting out of them. It's kind of more the individuals within the groups and how they're presenting themselves and what they're actually expecting back as far as a result. So to start off, if you are trying to take a negative habit, which is something that you're already doing on a consistent basis that is not contributing to your health and well-being. So you have a sweet tooth, or you like alcohol a bit too much, or anything that basically takes you off of that healthy lifestyle, that healthy path. Don't try to recreate it in a healthy manner. And this is the example that I'm kind of using for this. I got into a discussion with a young woman online who is trying to lose body weight. She's in excess of about 200 pounds. I'm not going to throw her name out because that's not nice and you don't do that. But she's in excess of 200 pounds and she's trying to get below that mark. And in the group, she posted a picture of a piece of pie. And this piece of pie was, some of the fruit that was in it was low glycemic in nature. Of course, it had a crust, which there was a couple of modifications made to make sure that it was gluten-free, but it was still a crust. And there was still some type of sugar substitute put in to maintain the sweet taste. Now, the problem that I have with this is at the end of the day, it's still a piece of pie. Now, should you be Xing out or completely eliminating pie from your diet? I'm never going to tell anybody to do that. You get one go round on this planet, and ultimately you need to enjoy every minute of it as much as you can. We'll talk about the definition of enjoying those moments in a minute. But the idea is, if you are currently at a body weight that you're not comfortable with, and it was due to lack of control over a sweet tooth, why would you necessarily try to take that very thing, that very, sweet tooth agitator, a piece of pie, and work so hard to keep it plugged into your nutritional plan. So I kind of had a back and forth with this individual, and she did everything she could to make sure that I knew that that piece of pie was healthy. She used pineapple, which is only a 6 out of 10 on the glycemic index. And, she used stevia instead of real sugar to make sure that the sweetener didn't have as much effect on her insulin levels. And, it was a gluten-free pie crust, but it's still a pie crust. It's still a sweet piece of pie. So what happens when she's finished with this diet plan that she's on, and she hasn't done a thing about her craving for a sweet piece of pie? Now, again, I'm not saying you can't have pie, but we were having this argument and this discussion. I don't want to say argument. We were having this discussion at 8 o'clock at night. Now, I don't know about you, but anytime you throw any kind of sugary substance into your system right before bed, fake or real, you're going to piss with your insulin levels. That has been proven time and time again. I mean, there's even research out there that says the mere tasting of anything sweet can start the insulin production process in your body. Now, in the fitness industry, we all kind of know this. We also take it for granted a little bit. As the day progresses, your metabolism tends to slow down. You don't burn calories as quickly as you did in the morning, kind of thing. It's one of the reasons why there's so many theories on making sure you train early on in the day and so on and so forth. But if you're one of those who is basically going through a difficult work day and you're spending hours and hours and hours at your grind, and then you get home and you're looking for some kind of reward, and it shows up in the form of a piece of healthy pie, you're ultimately slowing down your results. You're kind of meandering, if you will, just a little bit around the idea of weight loss or appetite control or making a better you. So this need to keep these negative habits built into our healthy lifestyle, it's sabotage. It's self-sabotage. And when you tell somebody this and when you explain to somebody this, they get very defensive because they get very upset because you're ultimately trying to take away some little source of pleasure center for them. Now, this same individual was ultimately asking for motivation when it came to training the next day. I have such a hard time waking up. I want to get a run in, I want to get a bike ride in, I need to go to the gym, but it's just so hard to go to bed or so hard to get out of bed. And I'm actually looked at as the jerk if I say, well, maybe it's because you're experiencing a touch of a sugar crash at the top of the morning because the last thing you ate was this healthy pie. So motivation ultimately can be good when it comes to getting you to do something, but it's ultimately the application that matters the most. So you can read meme after meme and quote after quote on what you should be doing and how you should be living your life. But if you're not applying, or even worse, if you have habits built in that are sabotaging your efforts, but you won't give them up because of comfort, because of some type of familiarity with that concept of eating something sweet right before bed. I've had a lot of clients that have had to deal with that demon. They're so used to the idea of a dessert post-meal that once they start down their fitness journey or their wellness journey, they try to keep that element in. Like, I need to have something sweet because I work so hard and, I deserve this little bit of, taste, sensation, satisfaction. And you're really just kind of slowing the roll. You're slowing your game up. You're not going to get to where you want to be trying to keep these habits built in, these negative habits built into your current training plan. The other thing, I guess, that I want to bring to light is being comfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable. Now, I bring an example of another client that, well, I can't call her a client. It's just somebody I'm interacting with. I have a bad habit of almost taking ownership a little bit over anybody that I'm dealing with. But I'm talking to this person who does not live in the state. They're, cross country kind of thing. We're going back and forth. And they have difficulty deciding whether or not to go out for a run or have a glass of wine at the end of the workday. Now, real quick, I'm not going to get up on any pedestal and say no drinking alcohol, alcohol is bad, so on and so forth. The research out there that says alcohol is negative and it does bad things for you is not far and few between. It exists. Read up on it, find out about it, and you accept whatever goes along with that. Personally, I do like my rum. I enjoy a nice, dark, heavy loaded rum, the Kraken, of course. Who else could drink a rum named after a mythological beast? But the idea is I try to space that out. I realize exactly what that does in my system. So if I'm planning on a pretty heavy leg day, I'm not going to drink the night before because I know it's just going to make me feel crappy. It's going to make me, make it difficult for me to get out of bed, probably alter my mood a little bit. These are all negative factors when it comes to getting the work done in the gym. So these people that are kind of bouncing back and forth with, should I have some wine or should I train? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. What I'm saying is perhaps you are not prioritizing self enough. And in that situation, no amount of verbal or visual motivation is going to help. I can tell you all of the facts that you need to hear that, as to why it's a good idea that you go for that run or you go for that training session as opposed to drinking the wine. But you're looking for a reward system. You're looking for something to almost pat you on the back for getting through the day's responsibilities. Now, as I said before, you need to become comfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable. So guess what? The workday is part of your day. It's mandatory. And some days it's going to be great. Some days it's going to suck. Some days it's not going to feel good at all. And you're going to get pushed way beyond what you think you should have given in that given workday. And that's okay. But that doesn't necessarily mean you need a pat on the back for that. That doesn't necessarily mean you need any kind of reward system. You just need to realize that your lifestyle has created an individual that's ultimately strong enough to make it through that kind of workday. That's the difference, is you're building a structure that can function on your terms and in your world. And that's not something that everybody else is supposed to be able to do. So when you're actually kind of trying to make that decision, should I have the glass or should I go train? Realize that if you go and train, what you're basically going to be doing is making your workday less difficult. You're creating an environment where you're in control of the most difficult factors in your world. And now that workday is no longer the worst thing you experience. If anything, it becomes a little bit more enjoyable because you're no longer stressed out about other people's personalities and attitudes. You're no longer stressed out about the amount of workload that's coming at you because you create a much more difficult environment in your own conditioning. So this is something, again, kind of keeping things in line with that motivation. This is something where if you are trying to develop this new lifestyle, this new, better version of you, understand that it's not going to be comfortable and stop trying to plug in these little images or, recreations of habits that you thought made you feel good or you thought you deserved because you actually did what you were supposed to do. Okay? The last thing when it comes to motivation, priority matters. Are you actually making yourself a priority? An example of that, I have some clients who are notorious at showing up 20 to 30 minutes into the last hour that I'm actually, open, and then of course there's a cramming of training and trying to get all of the components that I ultimately feel should be part of a training session in during that compressed amount of time. Now, for most people, something's better than nothing is usually the first thing that comes out of people's mouths. At least we're making an effort to get it in, which I would accept that within the first year or 2 years of somebody's training. But once you've been doing it for longer than that, there comes a point in time where you need to question your priorities. And unfortunately, work has a tendency to make people feel like they can't do anything else. They have to give their all at work. Some of these individuals get home and feel like they've got nothing left for their family, much less going to a gym and taking care of themselves. When in reality, when you take care of yourself, you take care of the engine that keeps your lifestyle going, what you'll see is an enhancement in the rest of your day. So you're no longer exhausted when you get home from a 10, 12, 14-hour workday. You have energy to spare, and you are now playing with your kids, or you're taking on little menial tasks and chores that you don't really want to do, on the weekend, because that's your time off and you're supposed to be able to sit down and enjoy it. Everybody's got this idea of we're supposed to relax and we're supposed to sit back and kick our feet up and, enjoy life as it passes by with the sunrise and sunset. For me, it's always been, if you can exhaust yourself during the day doing things that you love, you'll really enjoy the end of that day no matter what, whether it's a glass of wine in your hand or whether or not you're just sitting there watching a movie or, watching your kids jump around if you have kids. It really becomes a quality of life change. And you'll find that you don't necessarily need all of that extrinsic outside motivation to keep you going. You develop a pattern of moving yourself through this difficult life that you have created, and you do it well. You do it much easier than the person around you, or the people around you. At one point, I talked about paying attention to the negative factors in your life as well as the positive. I had some individuals, which everyone does, let's be clear. Every person walking this planet has had people in their lives who were less than productive or less than good for them as far as, what they should be doing. I personally can recount at least 5 people that I thought meant a big deal to me who literally said, you should stop training. You should stop working out. You should stop lifting. You should stop doing all of that stuff, because it was basically inhibiting their use of me. See what just happened right there? They wanted me to be able to fulfill some need in their world, and me taking care of myself was getting in the way of that. I mean, it is something to think about when it's all said and done. Are you doing this, and are you taking care of yourself for someone else, or are you doing it for you? And if that's the case, if you are doing it for you, then you have to take ownership of that. And you have to realize that you're going to do things that are not comfortable, that you're going to wake up at hours that aren't necessarily ideal for the lifestyle that everybody around you is trying to live. If you're waking up at 4 and 4:30 in the morning to get cardio done, to do meal prep, to plan out your training day, to even plan out your day period, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be up on what's on TV at 10 o'clock at night like the rest of the world is. You're going to walk a different path, and you're going to walk a path that's really not favorable to the masses. So when it comes to motivation and you keeping yourself going, my suggestion is try to find some means that are a little bit more internal. Try to come across some ways that, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I want to have the energy to play with my family. I need to be able to walk my dog on a consistent basis. So my legs have to be strong to get that done, even if I've worked 12 or 14 hours that day. It becomes a little bit more purpose loaded than, just merely does my butt look nice in these new pair of jeans. And I'm not saying that that's a bad motivation. There's, an entire, industry built on aesthetics alone. And that's not a bad thing, but it's sometimes that window kind of closes and you realize that people aren't really looking at you anymore, and you don't really need that outside approval from the rest of the world to keep you going. Sometimes you have to shift that inside and, okay, I'm doing this because I want to be healthier. I want my heart to work right. I don't want to have such giant insulin responses and constantly be putting on body fat, which, by the way, stores negative hormones, which, by the way, can put you into a bad mood, which, by the way, can affect your motivation. So when you're trying to put your day together and you're thinking about, why am I doing this? Apply some of these concepts. Should I be focused on what this particular pair of clothing looks like, or whether or not somebody notices my weight loss, or should I be trying to perfect the day that ultimately will make me have the quality of life that I want? So thanks for watching. Thanks for your time. If you have any questions or comments, concerns, feel free to throw them in the box below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, because there's going to be a lot more videos coming. Thanks again.